Kevin pushed open the door to their small apartment, his hands still shaking. The air inside was thick and hot, smelling faintly of detergent and exhaustion. He had no medicine in his hands, only empty pockets and a head full of guilt. His mother, Tracy, was still in her nurse's uniform, sitting at the kitchen table with her face buried in her hands. She had just come home from her second shift, and even the sound of the door made her flinch from tiredness. From the next room, the sound of wheezing cut through the silence. Destiny was struggling to breathe again. Kevin froze. Every gasp from his little sister stabbed him like a knife. Kevin, his mother's voice cracked. Please tell me you got the medicine. He didn't answer at first. His eyes dropped to the floor. He wanted to lie, to say he dropped the bottle or the store ran out. But the truth pressed too heavy on his chest. I couldn't, Mom, he said softly. There was this man outside the pharmacy. He collapsed. I think he was dying. Tracy stood up, anger and fear mixing in her face. What do you mean you couldn't? Your sister can't breathe, Kevin. I know, he shouted back, then stopped himself. But he needed help. No one else would do anything. I used the money to buy him aspirin. He was dying, Mom. I couldn't just walk away. For a moment, Tracy just stared at him. Her lips trembled, not sure whether to scold him or hold him. Finally, she whispered, "You have your father's heart, Kevin. But sometimes, that heart will break you." She wiped a tear, grabbed Destiny's small inhaler, empty, and pulled her daughter into her arms. "We have to go," she said quickly. Kevin helped her carry Destiny down the narrow stairs, the girl's breaths coming out in short, panicked gasps. The night outside was cold, the streetlights flickering as Tracy flagged down a passing cab. Kevin held Destiny close, feeling her tiny chest rise and fall in uneven rhythm. His mother pressed her hand against his cheek. "We'll talk about this later," she said, voice low and shaking. As the cab sped toward the hospital, Kevin looked out the window, the city lights blurring into streaks. He didn't know if he had done the right thing. All he knew was that he couldn't let someone die, even if it cost him everything he had. The hospital waiting room buzzed with noise, phones ringing, nurses moving fast, the low hum of people waiting for help. Tracy rushed in carrying Destiny, who was barely breathing, while Kevin followed close behind, his heart pounding. "Please, she needs her medicine," Tracy pleaded as she reached the counter. The nurse behind the desk, a woman named Sandra, didn't even look up right away. Her voice was calm but cold. "Do you have insurance?" she asked. Tracy nodded, breathless. "I just need a small dose until I can buy more tomorrow." Sandra sighed, tapping her nails on the desk. "That's not how this works, ma'am. We don't give out free medication." Kevin stepped forward, desperate. "Please, she's just a kid. I'll pay later." Sandra gave him a look that made his stomach twist. "This isn't a charity," she said flatly. "You people always want special treatment." The words hit harder than a slap. Tracy froze, eyes full of pain and disbelief. "I work here," she said quietly. "I'm a nurse." Sandra gave a fake smile. "Then you should know the rules." Kevin's hands curled into fists. He wanted to say something, anything, but before he could, another voice broke through. "What's going on here?" A tall black doctor walked over, his badge reading Dr. Mitchell. He took one look at Destiny and his calm expression changed to worry. "Get her inside now," he ordered. Sandra started to protest, but he cut her off. "Now, Sandra." Within minutes, Destiny was breathing easier, lying in a small treatment room. Tracy sat beside her, shoulders trembling with relief. Kevin stood by the door, still burning with anger. He heard Sandra outside talking to another nurse. "They probably spent their money on something stupid and now expect us to fix it," she whispered. Kevin stepped into the hallway, his voice shaking. "Would you like to see the video?" he asked, holding up his phone. "Someone filmed me saving that man's life. Or do you just want to keep thinking poor black kids only cause trouble?" Sandra's face went pale. Before she could reply, Tracy pulled Kevin back gently. "Let's go," she said softly. But Kevin couldn't stop the anger rising in his chest. He wasn't just fighting for his sister anymore, he was fighting to be seen as human. That night, the apartment was quiet except for the soft sound of Destiny's breathing. The medicine Dr. Mitchell gave her was working, and Tracy finally allowed herself to sit down. Kevin lay on the couch, staring at the ceiling, the events of the day replaying in his head. He couldn't stop thinking about the man he'd saved, the tattoos, the vest that said Hell's Angels, the way he'd gasped for air and whispered for help. Kevin wondered if he had survived. He was about to drift off when the phone rang. The sound cut through the silence, sharp and sudden. Tracy reached for it, half asleep. "Hello?" A calm male voice answered, "Mrs. Washington? My name's Cole. I'm a friend of the man your son helped today." Tracy straightened up. "Is he okay?" There was a pause, then Cole said, "He's alive, thanks to your boy. The man's name is Razor. He wanted me to tell you he'll never forget what Kevin did. He'd like to meet you both tomorrow morning, if that's all right." Tracy hesitated, her tired eyes meeting Kevin's across the room. He was already sitting up. "Mom, who is it?" he asked. "A friend of the man you saved," she said quietly. "He wants to see us." Kevin's heart started to race. "Why?" Cole's voice came through the receiver again. "Because what your son did today, it meant more than you know." After hanging up, Tracy sat on the edge of the couch, running her hand over Kevin's hair. "You really scared me today," she whispered. "But you also made me proud." Kevin looked down. "Mom, did I do the right thing?" She smiled sadly. "Your father would have done the same." Kevin froze. His father was a name they rarely spoke. "He was a paramedic," Tracy continued softly. "He died saving a family when you were 2. He didn't think about color, money, or danger. He just saw people who needed help." Kevin sat in silence, picturing a man he barely remembered. A man who sounded like the kind of hero he wanted to be. As the night grew quiet again, he felt something deep in his chest, a mix of fear, pride, and hope. Tomorrow, he thought, everything might finally make sense. The next morning, Kevin woke up before the sun. He couldn't sit still. He kept peeking through the thin curtain, watching the empty street below. Tracy tried to hide her nerves by cleaning the small living room, straightening old picture frames, fixing the couch that leaned to one side. Destiny played quietly on the floor, her breathing calm again. At first, the street outside was silent, but then came a low rumble. The sound grew louder, engines. Not one, but many. Kevin ran to the window, his eyes wide. Down on the street, motorcycles were pulling up one by one. The noise shook the windows. Neighbors peeked from behind their curtains. Tracy's hands froze on the coffee mug she was holding. "Oh my God," she whispered. "Kevin, what did you get us into?" 10 bikers parked in front of their building, leather vests shining under the morning sun. Kevin's stomach twisted with both fear and excitement. From the middle of the group, a tall man with gray hair and tattoos stepped off his bike, moving slowly but with purpose. It was him, Razor. Beside him stood Cole, the man who had called the night before. Cole smiled up at the window and gave a small wave. "It's okay," Kevin said, half to himself. "They're not here to hurt us." A few minutes later, there was a knock on the door. Tracy opened it cautiously. Cole stood there without his vest, dressed in a simple t-shirt. "Mrs. Washington, thank you for letting us come," he said gently. "Before the others come up, there's something you need to know." They all sat down on the old couch. Cole looked at Kevin, then at Tracy. "The man your son saved isn't just a biker. His real name is Robert Martinez. He owns 3 construction companies in Detroit. 15 years ago, he almost died of an overdose. The man who saved him that night was a paramedic named Marcus Washington." Tracy's breath caught. Kevin's eyes went wide. My dad, he whispered. Cole nodded. Your father saved Razor's life. When Razor heard your last name yesterday, he knew right away who you were. He's been searching for your family ever since. Tracy covered her mouth, tears filling her eyes. Moments later, Razor walked in. He moved carefully, his face still pale but his eyes warm. When he saw Kevin, he smiled. You must be Marcus's boy, he said, voice thick with emotion. Your father gave me a second chance. Yesterday, you did the same. Kevin didn't know what to say. Razor reached into his jacket and handed Tracy an envelope. This is for your family. It's not payment, it's gratitude. And this, he pointed out the window, where the bikers were unloading boxes from their bikes. This is just the beginning. Down on the street, they were stacking food, clothes, and medicine. Destiny pressed her face against the window, eyes shining. Kevin turned to Razor, voice trembling. Why are you doing all this for us? Razor smiled. Because kindness runs in your blood, kid. And it's about time someone returned it. Later that afternoon, the sound of engines filled the streets again, but this time, they weren't heading to Kevin's neighborhood. They were heading toward the hospital where Sandra worked. Tracy didn't know what Razor had planned, but he promised it wouldn't be violent. We don't fight hate with hate, he told her. We fight it with truth. Kevin and Tracy stood quietly as the bikers gathered, their leather jackets marked with the Hells Angels logo, shining under the midday sun. To most people, they looked dangerous. But Kevin knew better now. These weren't the men the world feared, they were men who had come to stand up for something right. When the motorcycle stopped in front of the hospital, people froze. Patients and visitors stared through the glass doors as the group walked in calmly, led by Razor. Sandra was at the front desk, her back straight, pretending not to notice them. But her hands shook when she saw who was walking toward her. The lobby fell silent. Razor took off his sunglasses and looked around before speaking, his voice strong but calm. We're here to thank Nurse Sandra, he said. For showing us what judgment looks like, and what it costs. Sandra's face turned red. I don't know what you're talking about, she said, forcing a nervous smile. Razor didn't yell. He simply nodded to Maria, one of the bikers who also worked as a nurse. Maria stepped forward, holding up a photo on her phone. Did you write this post last night? She asked. The screen showed Sandra's Facebook post, the one where she mocked Kevin's family and called them people who fake emergencies. The crowd began to whisper. Patients, doctors, and nurses stopped what they were doing to listen. Dr. Mitchell walked over, folding his arms. Sandra, is that true? He asked quietly. She tried to speak, but no words came out. Razor shook his head. You refused to help a child who couldn't breathe because of the color of her skin. You thought no one would notice. You were wrong. His words carried through the hall, calm but heavy. Sandra looked around and saw phones recording, faces staring, whispers turning into anger. She ran toward her supervisor, tears in her eyes, but it was too late. Everyone knew. 2 hours later, Sandra sat in the hospital office, pale and shaking. Her boss placed a stack of complaints in front of her, all from staff and patients who had seen what happened. You're done here, Sandra, he said quietly. You don't represent what this hospital stands for. As she gathered her things, the sound of engines roared outside again, fading this time, not coming for her, but leaving her behind. For the first time, she understood what it felt like to be judged. And for Kevin's family, justice had finally arrived, not through anger, but through truth. A few days later, Razor called Kevin and asked him to come with him for a ride. The morning was clear, the city still waking up as they rode through quiet streets. Kevin sat behind him, holding on tightly, the wind rushing against his face. They stopped in front of a large empty lot, surrounded by cracked sidewalks and overgrown weeds. A wooden sign stood in the middle, half covered by a tarp. Razor looked at Kevin and nodded. Go ahead, he said. Kevin walked up and pulled the tarp away. The words on the sign made his breath catch, future home of the Marcus Washington Community Center. He stared at it, not sure if he was dreaming. Razor smiled as Kevin turned to face him, his eyes wide with disbelief. "Your father saved my life, kid," Razor said softly. "He didn't know who I was. He didn't care. He just wanted to help. Because of him, I got clean. I built a life. And now, because of you, I remember why I started all this in the first place." Kevin's throat tightened. He tried to speak, but his voice broke. Razor put a hand on his shoulder. "This place will give kids in your neighborhood a chance to learn, to grow, to believe they matter. Mechanics, first aid, leadership, all free. It's my way of saying thank you to your father, and to you." Tracy arrived a few minutes later, holding Destiny's hand. When she saw the sign, tears filled her eyes. She covered her mouth, speechless. "Razor, I don't even know what to say," she whispered. "You don't have to say anything," he replied. "Your husband taught me that real heroes don't ask for anything in return. They just give." Destiny ran around the empty lot, laughing and chasing butterflies, her breathing strong and steady. Tracy watched her daughter and smiled. Razor handed Kevin an envelope. Inside was a scholarship letter and a check. "This is for your future," he said. "And for your sister's medicine, for as long as she needs it." Kevin looked up, his eyes wet. "I don't know how to thank you," he said. Razor shook his head. "Just keep being who you are." As the bikers started helping clear the lot, Kevin joined them, picking up trash, laughing, and learning how to use tools. For the first time in his life, he felt like the world was opening up, not because of money or luck, but because of something his father once believed: kindness always finds its way back. Months passed, and the community center was slowly taking shape. The once empty lot was now full of sound, hammers, laughter, and music from a small speaker someone had brought. Kevin worked there every day after school, helping paint walls, move boxes, and hand out snacks to the volunteers. One afternoon, as he was sweeping near the entrance, he saw a woman standing by the gate. Her clothes were simple, her hair tied back, her face pale and tired. It took him a moment to recognize her. It was Sandra, the nurse from the hospital. For a second, neither of them spoke. She looked smaller somehow, quieter, as if life had taken everything from her. "Kevin," she said softly, her voice trembling. "I don't expect you to forgive me. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry." She lowered her eyes. "I lost my job. My friends. Everything. And I deserve it. I was cruel to your family. I judged you without even knowing you." Kevin stood there, holding the broom tightly. A part of him remembered her words, the way she looked down on his mother, the way she made them feel less than human. But another part of him, the part that looked like his father, couldn't turn away. "My mom always says people can change if they really want to," he said quietly. Sandra looked up, tears filling her eyes. "I want to," she said. "I really do." Kevin nodded slowly. "Then start here. We need volunteers for the clinic. You used to be a nurse, right?" She blinked, surprised. "You'd let me work here? After what I did?" Kevin shrugged gently. "Everyone deserves a second chance. My dad gave one to Razor. Maybe this is yours." From that day on, Sandra showed up every morning. She cleaned floors, organized medicine, and slowly began helping again, this time with patience and care. Kevin often saw her smiling softly at children who came for checkups, her hands steady and kind. One afternoon, Tracy stood beside Kevin, watching Sandra bandage a little boy's arm. "She's really changed," Tracy said quietly. Kevin nodded. "People can change, Mom. Dad believed that. And now I do too." As the sun set behind the new center, the world felt different, softer, lighter. Kevin had learned that forgiveness wasn't about forgetting. It was about giving someone a chance to be better. And that, he realized, was its own kind of strength. 2 years later, the Marcus Washington Community Center was no longer just a dream, it was alive. The once empty lot had become a bright building filled with voices, laughter, and hope. Inside, kids learned how to fix bikes, study for school, and talk about their future. Kevin, now 16, walked through the hallways wearing a volunteer badge, greeting everyone by name. He had grown taller, but his eyes still held the same kindness. That evening, he stood on stage at the city theater, lights shining down on him, as the governor handed him an award for courage and leadership. The crowd rose to their feet, clapping and cheering. Tracy wiped tears from her eyes as Destiny, now healthy and full of energy, waved proudly from the front row. Kevin held the award tightly and looked out at the crowd. "My father was a paramedic," he began, his voice steady. "He believed that saving one life is worth any sacrifice. 2 years ago, I spent my last $15 trying to help a stranger. I didn't know that choice would change my whole life. It taught me something my father already knew: the best revenge isn't to destroy people who hurt you. It's to turn them into better people." The room went quiet as he looked toward the back, where Sandra stood, watching him with teary eyes. She had become the head nurse at the community clinic, working harder than anyone. Kevin smiled at her. "Some people fall so they can learn how to rise. And when they rise, they help others rise too." After the ceremony, Kevin visited his father's grave. The night air was cool, the sky full of stars. He placed the award on the grass and whispered, "Dad, that $15 you taught me to give turned into something bigger than I ever dreamed." A soft wind moved through the trees, and for a moment, Kevin felt like his father was there, not in words, but in peace. As he walked back to the car, he thought about everything that had happened: the cruelty, the kindness, the forgiveness. He had learned that real strength wasn't about fighting or winning. It was about changing hearts. And sometimes, all it took to start that change was one small act of courage and a heart that refused to turn away.